Welcome to the Hedgehog, Watchdog. I'm your host, Evan Saxon, joined always by Greg Baldwin. We're the meme team behind Libertarian Party of South Dakota and South Dakota's Against Prohibition. Today's episode is sponsored by pinkcoin.com, Camp Ridger Seasonings. You can check them out at campridger.net. And the Dakota Rustler. Our guest today is Jay Nygaard, the Turbine guy. Welcome to the show, Jay.
Hey, thanks for that. And that was a great intro. I really appreciate when people take a minute to do a little research and see who you are.
Hell yeah. So tell us a little about yourself and how you got the name, the Turbine guy.
Well, as far as getting the name, the Turbine guy, years ago, I decided I was going to start a business in Florida called Go Green Energy, and I was going to put solar on everybody's house. But then I came to find out that the only people with money on my part of Florida were the ones who came down on vacation. So it kind of made it hard. So I moved my business up here. But while I was doing that, I researched wind turbines and what kind of micro wind could I find that could sustain the hurricane winds and all that. And I happened upon this company called Hedgehog Energy. They've since changed their name to Hedgehog Technology. But I sent off and went back and forth with them for a bit. And then I ended up sending like $4,800 over there for a dealer kit for 2 wind turbines. And, while I'm sitting at home for 2 months wondering if the Taiwanese were up at the opium den laughing at the silly American that sent us all this money, right? Mm-hmm. Finally, after 2 months, the turbines showed up and they're real and they're quality and they work. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get behind these and start selling them. But I can't sell them to you until I know they work for me and I can prove it. So that was my goal. Well, I've been on the local city council and planning commission. I knew the ordinances in this community. I knew there was nothing about wind turbines. They were uncontrolled and I could put it where I wanted pretty much as long as I didn't violate the height ordinance, which is what I did. It was 19 feet tall when I put it up. Well, that's when the city decided to go after me. So I've been in a long legal battle with the city. I still got 1 small wind turbine on my house. So after putting 4 up, somehow I still have 1, even though it violates their code. For some reason, that one's okay. But that's how I became the Turbine guys. I became famous over all of this, standing up, not just for green energy, but for property rights and individual rights. Basically the freedom to do what I want to do. You know what? I like guns, but I don't have a big gun collection. I like trucks, but I don't have a lot of cool cars. What I do like is green energy. So I want to spend my money on that. So, I kind of got invested in that, and it kind of got out of my hands and steamrolled. And next thing you know, I've got all this publicity. I've got millions and millions of views on Facebook with the story going on. And you know what? The Turbine guy just stuck because that's who I am.
When was that? What year was that? Or
it all started in 2011 when the lawsuit started. I ended up in jail in 2015, I think. And I spent 5 days in jail for having a useless buried chunk of concrete in my yard, which is, especially considering concrete's considered clean fill. It's amazing that the city and the judges would go to that length. It's completely amazing. But it's still been ongoing. My wife and I were recently criminally charged and prosecuted for failure to obtain a permit to replace a driveway in a smaller footprint, getting smaller. It was ridiculous charges. It's pure retaliation. We have a federal lawsuit outstanding now against the city for this. And the saddest part about that prosecution was my wife had nothing to do with any of this. She's disabled. Okay. I'm the one who does the construction. I pull the permits. I do everything. Well, they criminally charged her in an attempt to get me to comply with their illegal requirements.
Wow. That's disgusting.
What town are you
in? I'm in Orono,
Sorry.
Minnesota, Orono, Minnesota. And they're real easy to find on the internet if someone wants to send them a comment and talk to them. And, I can tell you about the public works guy, or the former head of public works who just got promoted to be the city administrator. His name's Agm Edwards. And when the city put the street in out here, they slanted it towards us. And they did that maybe 4 years ago. And I was out there trying to tell them, you're screwing up because it's a narrow street and I don't need that water on my property. Well, Sure enough, when we got the house next door, there's water coming into the driveway. And this supposed engineer, civil engineer, told me that the problem was the driveway settled. Now, I sent back to him an email and said, what do you think? I'm a moron? I said, the driveway's 30 years old. The road is 3. Okay, I'm not the problem here. So, of course, they get obstinate when you point stuff like that out to them.
So how much power does like a wind turbine on your home generate?
It depends. They've got 4 different sizes. There's a 300 watt, there's a 700 watt, the 1500 watt, and the 3000. The 300 can only be off-grid application for 12 or 24 volt battery bank charging. The other 3 can either be off-grid at 48 volt or grid tie at 220.
Nice. So that can power like
we're kind of layman. Yeah, we're layman's on this subject. So like,
sure,
what can you expect? On a smaller unit, what kind of what can you power how long?
I sell both solar and wind, and I recommend both. And I sell batteries and install all of that. Yeah. And by the way, anybody out there listening, I do DIY kits. So if you get a hold of me, I'll custom design a kit, and I got YouTube videos you can watch to see how to put it in. And I'll be there whenever you got a call and get a little technical advice, so you can do it yourself and do it for maybe 2/3 the original cost or cost of what it would be, which is huge because then it's affordable. Because there's actually a 26% federal tax credit for it now. Now, us libertarians hate taxes, right? That's theft, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Here's how to steal a little bit of it back from the federal government. You install something like this, geothermal, and a few other things that have that tax credit, and you can actually get some of that money back. It's not a deduction; it's a straight credit. So it's cool that way. So anyways, a typical house would have somewhere from 8 to 12 kilowatts of solar. If you had a big house, maybe up to 20 kilowatts of solar. I've got one I put 22 on, but he's a new modern house with all the Fandango stuff.
Yeah.
So if I was recommend to someone in your area, because you guys really have good wind out there, I know that for sure. I don't know if it's the governor, but I know you guys got good wind, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, what I would do is I would maybe get a 3 kilowatt wind turbine, and then I'd probably get, depending on the house size, anywhere from 6 to 8 kilowatts of solar. And then between the two, you'd have enough to power the house, and you're redundant where I don't know how the clouds get there, but here in Minnesota in November, we don't get to see the sun. So that's not very good for a solar system. And that's why it's great to, and then, that's where I sell a lot of my wind turbines in the backwoods areas, up in the mountains and back, high Rockies of Montana, where you can't see an electrical pole no matter how far you look. They can't afford to get electricity. They put solar up, but in the winter, the sun's too low, but they have wind. So what do they want? And I had one client who put up 3 different propeller style turbines that all crashed, cost him money. He's had mine up now for 4 years without a problem.
Nice. What are the battery? I know that was one of the limitations to that whole technology before, was the being able to store the energy. What are the batteries looking like nowadays? Can you get a couple days worth stored? For when you got the cloudy days and those,
it all depends how much money you got.
Yeah.
to be honest, I mean, that's what it boils down to. If you got enough money, by the way, if you put solar in and batteries in, the batteries qualify for the tax credit too. If you got to upgrade your electric panel, that qualifies for the tax credit. So there's a lot of ways to take advantage of this to help yourself out, kind of thing. So anyways, the batteries can range, do y'all know what Agm batteries are?
I don't.
Okay.
No.
You've got the regular lead acid batteries. That's what we all have in our cars, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the next generation was called gel cells, where instead of just lead acid, they had a gel in there. And why that was good is because that kept the chemicals up and entrained in the fluid and all that, so that it operated better. They wouldn't precipitate out and die earlier, so they lasted longer. Well, that lasted for a while, but now they came along with AGMs, okay, absorbed glass mat. And what they do is they take a fiberglass mat, lead plate, mat plate, and they get something this big and they squish it together and they got a battery. They hook it all up and they got a battery. And the theory is, having all these mats with its chemicals entrained, it's going to last a lot longer, be able to go deeper in the charge and more cycles. And it's kind of the next generation. So whenever I buy batteries now, I typically get AGMs. if they get discharged, they tend to recover a lot better. They get more, they pretty much got twice the life. So that is the low level entry point of batteries. If you want to do something like I have in my house and you've got a sump pump, maybe you want to run your fridge in the power outage and a few lights or the fireplace in the winter, whatever, you could probably get by with 6 to 8 batteries. Okay. Car size batteries are going to cost you a couple $100 a piece.
Yeah.
And maybe more depending. But then you're going to have to get yourself some solar and a charge controller and inverter to go with it. Now, if you're thinking about, you know what, I'm building a new house or I really want to be prepared, then I'm getting certified right now with Generac, and they've got complete systems. They've bought out some companies, so they've got everything but the solar panels pretty much. They've got the inverters, they've got the batteries and all that, and they've got the biggest storage system there is right now. So we can get you going on those, but that's going to take a solar system from around $22,000 to around $35,000. Okay, so it's a big jump in price in order to get that in. And there's other battery companies out there like Sunnen that are really, really good. I would suggest people stay away from Tesla for a few reasons. You know, they're expensive enough, but they're like a secret society that if you aren't specially trained or whatever by them, they won't even talk to you, and you can't get trained unless you're special. And so, you know what? I look at them too, and Tesla's never made money. Why would you buy something from a company that's never made money?
Yeah.
I mean, are they going to be around for the warranty? Heck no. Heck no. So he's going to be either up on the moon or on Mars when you're trying to get your warranty collected. He's going to be riding his space Chevy out to Mars.
So how much do wind turbines cost for like your home?
Well, if you want a 300-watt turbine with the charge controller, it's $2,850 shipped. Now I can get it for you a little cheaper than that, but that's wherever you are. And if you look on like Amazon or eBay, you can get turbines a lot cheaper. I'm really going to caution you. I've bought a couple of the cheaper ones, and they are cheaper. You're going to end up buying 4 or 5 of those, maybe even more in the life of this turbine. Okay. This turbine, this company's been around since the early 2000s, I think 2004. And all I've ever seen them do is continue to improve the turbine technology wise. When I first got my sample kit, the turbines were like this big. Next generation, they were this big and still putting out the same power. What does that tell you? It tells you they're revamping, remodeling, and trying to make it as efficient as they can. So it's impressive that way. But anyways, $2,850 for the small one. The 7,000 retails for $6,500, but I know I can get it for you cheaper now if you live by an ocean port. If you don't live by an ocean port, I got some bad news for you these days because the rail transport's so expensive. It's hard to do. You know, with all this COVID stuff going on, it's just throwing so many different things out of whack. I had a guy in New Zealand said, yeah, I want a 700. How much is that going to cost? My supplier sent me the price, and then he sent me the shipping on DHL. The shipping was more than the turbine. I just went back. I said, I can't tell him that. What do you think? I'm nuts? I said, how much is it on the slow boat? Okay, how much on the slow boat to get there? So if you get it shipped on a boat and you can get to a port, I can get it to you actually probably cheaper than pre-pandemic days.
Nice.
So I got a question because you were just talking about innovation with turbines and stuff. You know, and I don't claim to know a whole lot about the subject, but, you know, what do you think about like the big wind turbines that you see all over, especially in southwest Minnesota, Iowa, South Dakota? And has the technology really advanced? Because it seems like we're just stuck and we're putting up the same thing that we were 20 years ago. You know, what are your opinions on that? You know more about that.
That's a great question. You know, I was in the Navy back in the mid 80s. And when I was there, I was stationed in Alameda, which is right in the Oakland Sound there. And I'd go over the hill, and my cousin lived in Livermore. So I go out there and stay with him, and I rented an apartment out there, you know, to get away a little bit. But just west of Livermore, they had wind turbines everywhere. And this is in the mid 80s. And a lot of them were the vertical axis like this that spun like that. And they were huge tube laders. And there were still some of the regular propeller style. So this technology's been around a long time. Okay. A lot longer than the Dutch had windmills. Okay. It's that simple. So it's been a matter of, like anything else, improving the technology to make it better. And I truly think that the big turbines, they can't succeed without continuing to improve their technology. They've got to be able to make smaller turbines that make more energy, or they'll never be able to compete, especially at some point with all this inflation and potential hyperinflation coming and the huge tax burden that's going to be thrust on everybody in the near future. You think the government's going to be giving out any credits? That's why I say now is the time. Now's the time for turbines or solar. The price of solar is going up. I made a video about that. If you go to my channel, the YouTube guy or Turbine Guy, everybody, I got a Turbine Guy channel. Go out there and sub me. I'm starting to get somewhere. It's really cool. But anyways, I got a video on there I made about 2 weeks ago as to why the price of solar is going up. And it's coming true. My supplier told me 3 days ago, he said, you know what? Really glad you made that video because I don't have to explain to you why the price is going to go up. I said, you show it to your other guys so they understand. It's a multitude of things, including shipping, the cost of raw materials, the cost of silicon on top of it.
Yeah.
U.S. government intervention at the ports claiming that some of the stuff's made with Uyghur slave labor. So it's all got to be documented and proven not to be at the port. So a lot of it's going to get delayed or refused. So there's a lot of things going on. Fortunately, the wind turbines aren't going to go up. They're from Taiwan. They're one of our allies, aren't they? I mean, aren't the Taiwanese the Chinese capitalists?
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, that's exactly what they are. They're the Chinese nationalists, and the communists tried to beat them back, right after World War II, and the nationalists went to Taiwan, and the communists couldn't win. That's why there's Taiwan now. So you've got these people who just love America. And, I talked to these people and they were afraid of this election. They really were afraid of what was going to happen, and what they were afraid of came true.
That Biden would win?
Pretty much. They understand. They could see from there the difference. I'm not going to say Trump's any great guy, but they could see the difference in the two from there and what it meant to their country. Absolutely, they could. They are no dummies. I'm going to tell you that because I've worked with these guys on getting the turbine certified UL style so they're safe, and getting the SWCC certification, Small Wind Certification Council. We are the only wind turbine, vertical axis, spins like that has ever been certified in the United States.
Wow.
Yeah, that's interesting because I actually seen a wind or a turbine that kind of operated and it rotated like this, but in a circle instead of like a propeller blade,
Yep.
And they were talking about how much more efficient that one was because it'll catch it from all angles. And
they'll say that, but it's not true.
No.
Okay. No, mechanically wise, the horizontal types are technically more efficient, but they have a lot more problems is the issue. Even though they may be a little more efficient, and our turbines are really catching up to them fast. I mean, we're over 30% efficient. I think 33% or something now. So, and that's really good in the wind industry, because what an efficiency means, just in case anyone doesn't know, is the amount of energy you can capture out of the wind going by it. It's an energy calculation. So it's getting really good. It's getting to match your propellers, but the propellers have so many side loads. They've got so many other issues, a lot of noise, a lot of vibration, a lot of other things. I put a wind turbine, or a client did, on the top of his cell tower in California, and he'd had three other propellers up there himself that all fell apart and cost him money. Mine was up there for a year and a half, and the second winter season, he said the winds were 80 miles an hour and he never had an issue. And it was running so well, he's able to remove the backup gas generator off the off-grid system.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, super nice. Super nice. So I've got that testimonial if anyone wants to see it.
So you were a city council member now in the town that you have the ongoing beef with?
Yeah, when I moved out here, I raised a little bit of a ruckus over something that made sense right away. So they appointed me to the planning commission to shut me up. You make a little noise and they do something. I got on there and I was on there for a couple of years and I put my $2 in to run for the city council and I ended up whooping ass. And
Nice.
the current mayor at the time got a coalition against me. And one of his guys came in second, but they were like 500-600 votes behind me. I had 2,100 to their like 1,500. So
How many people live in your town?
Over 7,000, and
7,000.
we've got over 3,000 houses. And what I did, if anybody out there wants to go get elected in a small community, I have the formula. I really do. Okay, you be respectful. And when you get out, no matter who you're talking to, if they ask you your like bent or who you are, your political leanings, you say, I'm a conservative. I don't like to say, but I'm a conservative libertarian. You know what that means? Don't tax me too much and just leave me alone. People eat that up. So those are two things. And the last thing you got to do is the hardest. Knock on 2/3 of the doors in your community. You've got to go meet people, shake hands, talk to people, and give them a chance to answer questions. You do that, you'll win.
Nice. That's good advice.
That's a pretty big
South
district.
Dakota is small town. So, yeah, those are good tips.
Yeah, South Dakota is full of. There's one town we drove through that I think in Wyoming that had like 6 people, and I looked at my son and said, "Well, if all 4 of us move in, we can take over the town, right?"
So
that's why I say South Dakota would be a way better free state project, because I would say that if it was South Dakota, it would have already taken over the entire state because we're that small.
Oh, easy. Well, not only that, you guys are open-minded and conservative. The problem with communist Minnesota, which is what it's, I mean, it was bad before. It used to be socialist. They've turned communist now. But the problem with it is we've got these city centers where all this thought festers, and these people don't visit the rural area, the farms. These people haven't been around the world. When I was in the Navy, I went to Italy, France, Germany, Singapore, Australia, Pakistan, Philippines, and Hawaii. Now, don't ever go to Pakistan. It's a toilet. I'm going to tell you that up front. But all the others were passable, or fun to be at. And you really kind of learn about the world when you go around and see how people live. And what I loved to do was I loved to go talk to the people in the community. I didn't want to just go to the bars and hang out. I wanted to go out and talk to people who lived. There was one time in the Philippines. Okay, I'm hanging out with this girl and her family, and it's a regular like rambler house from the Midwest, and they got 5 families living in it. It's all partitioned off, and the toilet's outside, and the faucet's on the house 15 feet away for the toilet, but no one could figure to put a hose in, right? So they got a bucket there, and it's outside and open. So they got a different life over there. But at one point we're playing. I taught them how to play quarters. We're playing pesos and having a good time. Mm-hmm. I think a case of beer is $1.25 at that point or something. And the thing about Filipino beer is you never knew if it was going to be 2 or 12 beers to get you drunk. They had no quality control. So anyways, I said, I'm hungry. So I can go up and get you barbecue. So I gave him some money. He went up and came back, and I'm eating this barbecue on the stick. I'm going, wow, this is really good. I said, but it sure is tough. And he looks at me and says, yeah, monkey always is. I'm like, really? He said, yeah. I said, well, here, you can finish this. I'm okay for tonight. So, but you see, you learn things like that, right? Walking down the streets in the Philippines in Olongapo, they were selling puppies on the street for food. Okay, they weren't selling them to be pets. The world is not the United States, and it's sure not downtown Minneapolis, St. Cloud, Duluth, or Rochester. Okay, and that's the problem, is these people down there just don't understand that. They haven't gotten out enough.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how else to put it.
What were you saying before he interrupted you, Greg?
Oh no, just he was talking about taking over towns with city councils and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I was just gonna remark that I only live in a town that has 300 people, and they have a town board. I've thought about running for it myself. Why
haven't you?
That's an
excuse.
Yeah, Yeah, they
Before
do.
you even say it, that's an excuse. I put my 2 cents in. Not only that, I ran for Senate in Minnesota Senate in my district as a libertarian, and I went out and got 500 signatures so I could get on the ballot.
Yeah.
So I got a right to sit here and say that's an excuse. You just got to do it.
Okay. To be fair, I've ran for state house and I've ran for state senate.
Okay, there you go. There you go.
I was the town board's kind of weird because there's 3 elected positions, but they alternate who's going up for election every year. So it's like a 3-year term, but it's only one person running.
Sure.
But
you only got one to beat.
Yeah, it wouldn't be bad. It'd be a good start. Speaking of libertarian, do you consider yourself an environmentalist? Because I think libertarians probably get beat up about, we don't care about the environment. And for the most part, a lot of libertarians, they don't have a plan or very many answers when it comes to the environment.
No politicians do. They sit up there and they spew these phrases, and what happens to me, and no one comes to the rescue. But you know what? You brought that up, and my son's been bugging me to announce something, so I'm going to do it here on your podcast. How many people we got watching?
I don't know.
Got 4 lucky people right now.
4. There you go. Y'all are going to see this, okay? We're going to announce something. You got the red pill and the white pill and all these pills, right?
Yeah.
I want to announce right here and now the green pill. And the green pill is a practical view of not just the environment, but renewable energy and everything as a whole. It's not just one part of it. It's not just solar. It's not just wind. It's not just this or that. It's everything. And because I've been a long-standing critic of people who complain about carbon dioxide over things like methane, over things like mercury, over all these other toxic pollutants we spread around the globe evenly. Okay, so to me, it's a practical approach. It's a combination of sustainability, of green energy, of conservation, and everything that makes practical sense. Okay, let's not shove things down people's throats. We don't need to buy a Solyndra for $500 million to accomplish this. What we have to do is give you, Devin, and you, Greg, the opportunity to install what works for you. Okay, some places are going to be great for geothermal. There's some places that are going to be great for microhydro, plenty great for solar, plenty great for wind, and there's more technologies coming. In Denmark now, they've got sidewalks you walk on that make electricity. As people walk by, the walking makes the electricity. So there are so many unique ideas out there. The green pill is all about encompassing everything that works in a practical manner without shoving it down people's throats, making them feel a bad taste in their mouth and be like they're being told, you got to do this or else. You got to show that it makes sense to do it. So what do you think?
I like the concept green pill. I like it. I think that's really catchy.
It's the libertarian answer to the big green New Deal.
Yeah.
Absolutely it is. And part of the green pill's got to be nuclear power.
Yeah.
It just has to be. Nuclear power is so much better than it ever used to be. And I was a nuclear power machinist mate in the Navy. Okay. I kind of got an idea about nuclear power and how it works, and I followed it through the years. And I was actually in Europe when Chernobyl went. Okay.
Ooh.
So we had some of the cloud come over us from Chernobyl. So
where were you in Europe when that went down?
That was 86.
Okay.
I think it was 86. Yeah.
And then what country were you in? Were you in
I was in Italy, and I flew up to Germany.
Okay.
And then after that, we went to France. So yeah, Germany was actually no, I'm wrong. I flew up to West Germany. It wasn't Germany.
Oh
yeah. So I'm dating myself a little bit here. That's why I got the hat on.
I didn't even think about that because I'm an army brat, so my parents were in the army, and I was actually born in Frankfurt, Germany.
Oh, okay.
But I've never thought of that it was actually West Germany and not actually just Germany.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never thought about that. That's kind of crazy. Yeah.
It is. You know, and the difference I found is really interesting. When I was in Italy, it really kind of was a dirty country. And if you had 3 lanes on the road, there were 5 lanes of drivers. And it was just crazy everywhere. But you know what? We hopped a train from Naples and went up to Rome and got a hotel. None of us spoke any Italian and went out. And I mean, I walked through the Vatican and walked through all kinds of places. It was super cool. You know, but then when we flew up to Germany, when I flew up Germany by myself, it was prim and proper and clean everywhere. It was spotless. The cab stand had all Mercedes. That was all the cabs were Mercedes, you know. So it was crazy the difference in the two countries that were side by, and France was like that too. France was complete, and that's why I got on a train and went to Toulon and on the French Riviera just to hang out for a day, and it was super cool. That was clean. But you know what I noticed about France when I was there? The old people loved us military. The young people hated us.
Yeah.
Yep. In the mid 80s, they had that attitude at that point. Yeah. The old people remembered, you know, the U.S. military saved our ass twice. You know, the young people don't care.
You're a foreigner.
Kaylor Nygaard says, finally, the green pill is cemented in history. The libertarian answer to the new Green Deal.
Yep. I knew he'd like that. But I've been waiting for the right opportunity to announce it somewhere. And I figured that this is a perfect place to do it.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely the best place.
Yeah.
South Dakota should be like the green state. Like, we've got all the wind. We've got sunshine. We're like the sunshine state. I guess Florida stole that tagline from us, but whatever. We've got just as much sun.
You know, it's a misnomer or misbelief that because you're up north, you don't have as good a solar. Okay, the hours are fewer in the winter, but with the snow and all of that, bouncing it around, and the modules getting cold, people don't understand this. All modules are tested at 72 degrees. The hotter they get, the worse they work, which means when they're on a roof in Florida at 140 degrees, that's not good. There's only so many modules that work well in that condition. But up here, when it's 20 below zero, they could be putting out 120% of their capacity. 120%. So between the snow, the extra light bouncing around, and the cold weather, even though the day's shorter, they still produce as good as a hot day down in other places. Interesting, huh?
Yeah, let's get some solar energy in South Dakota.
Solar and wind. You know, it depends on where you are and how it works. And you know, isn't the end of the world supposed to be coming? I keep hearing that. Time for your battery bank. Why would you want a generator that you have to go forage and fight for gas over? Why not put in a battery bank that's going to last 10 years or more?
Do you get a lot of preppers ordering your wind turbines and stuff for their shelters?
I don't, because unfortunately preppers don't have a lot of money. You know, that's part of it. They're busy doing their deal. And I think they think it might be a little obtrusive being up there. But the biggest question I get from preppers is, well, can you paint it black? Like, you can paint it whatever color you want to. It's still going to work just fine.
So what's the installation like for a wind turbine? Is it simple? Do you need to get help to do it if you're not a handyman? Or
it depends on how big a turbine you're putting in. If you're putting a 300 watt in, we order you a pole with the flange on the top. You dig a 3.5, well, maybe 4 foot hole where you guys are. That's, you know, maybe a good 2 feet, 2.5 feet diameter is all you really need. Throw a little rebar down in there, put the turbine on the pole, grab it and stick it in. I actually made a video doing that down in Arizona with Adam Kokish. So
really? Nice.
I brought a turbine down there and we put it in. And go to my YouTube channel, Turbine Guy, and you can see that video where we put it in. And that's what I did so people can see. So the 300 that you're going to put up to charge your 24-volt battery bank, because you always want as high as you can, that you're going to put in for that is simple as heck. It's fairly cheap. You're going to be done by about, well, with the batteries, probably $4,000, and you can get 26% of that back. So you're going to be $3,000 into it. And you're going to have a small battery bank system off grid. And the charge controller for this turbine, you can hook one solar panel up to. So we add that in the system too. And then you can charge a little things like the sump pump or run some of that stuff when the power goes out. Okay. But now, if you're
Nice.
going to talk about putting the 700 in, all of a sudden you're talking a 3-foot diameter hole deep enough. That's still easy enough because the thing's only, it's like 220 pounds or something like that. So, 4 or 5 guys could put it in, kind of thing. Where you put the one in at Adams was kind of like the Iwo Jima flag raising. Got it on there
Yeah.
and stuck it all up. It was definitely fun. But if you're going to get to the 1,500 or 3,000, you're going to have a crane. You got to dig for mine, it was a 1,500. I had a 4x4 by 4 footing. Had to get an anchor bolt assembly, fill it all in, and then get the turbine on it.
So what's the one that's still left on your property?
That's a 300. It's charging my 24-volt battery bank. I got it on my house, but it's too low. It's just above the roof line, and it's in a turbulent area. So next time I make some poles for a 300, I'm going to get a 3-foot extension with a flange on each end and get it just a little bit higher.
Let's see. Kaylor Nygaard says, can store energy using the elevation by pumping water up the mountain from green energy and use hydro turbines to recapture it when needed.
Yes, that's a system I've considered designing. Is you basically get a tank, or in Florida where it rains so damn much, you can get 6 inches at a house. And if it's all running off the roof, run it into a tank and have a little micro hydro on the bottom. Even if the thing's just 100 watts, 200 watts, it's going to sit there and spin and feed your house.
Yeah.
Or charge your battery bank.
Yeah. I've heard about them putting those in like the sewer lines or something that's the water going through it will spin it. I don't know if you know anything about that.
That will work in some places. Other places it won't. If you're using energy to pump the water through the sewer system, you're kind of screwed. But if you're in a hilly area like the mountains, you just have to pump it up to a point and it's going to fall down so far anyways, then it would work. So it's a matter of location. But hey, what did I just say about the green pill? You just brought up a great example of the green pill. Where do you put these sewer system energy recapture devices? You put them in the places that work. That's what the green pill is about.
Practicality.
But a bureaucrat's gonna one size fits all, and they're just gonna mandate them everywhere.
And I got a great example of that. This is how government runs amok. I had a client in Burnsville, Minnesota, who wanted to put solar on his roof, and he's got a hipped roof. And the city of Burnsville had an ordinance saying you can, but if you have a hipped roof as opposed to a roof that's not hipped, then you have to put triangular modules on it so it follows the roof line of the roof. So it looks nice, right? Well, the problem with that theory is that one of them looked in a magazine and saw a picture that looked cute without the knowledge that there are no triangular modules on the market. So now you've made an ordinance which precludes a large percentage of your population from installing a solar system without going through a variance, and then they're going to deny you anyways, like this guy went through, unless he ended up putting triangular cardboard or plywood pieces up there to look like. I mean, it's just so stupid. It's a perfect class. I got to do a video on this. I really got to go stand outside the guy's house in the Burnsville City Hall and talk about this is the problem with local government. Someone sees a picture, they says that's a good idea, and they have zero idea that they can only make a rule if it has to do with the health, safety, or welfare of the community. What do triangular modules or the color of a house have to do with any of that?
Yeah.
Right.
So that's just me. That's just me, guys.
So what's your opinion on this new infrastructure bill that they're talking about passing that supposedly has a bunch of green energy programs in it?
Can almost guarantee you I won't see a penny. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm the guy with the relationship with a Taiwanese company that could open a micro wind manufacturing place in Minnesota, and I could have probably 8 years ago. But I can't get anybody. I went down to the state government in Minnesota and said, here's how you accomplish your goals. Okay, you want to go green? And, they had a meeting with me, and then I haven't heard back from them. And it's going to be another Cylindra debacle. What else is it? It's the government. I mean, the government doesn't know. Like you said, one size fits all. That's not America. America is about what? Individuality, individualism, the differences in us, the differences in our properties, the differences in the states we live in. That's the great thing about America. They're trying to take that away from us. That's what I think. And that's what I think is going to happen with this bill.
Yeah, I think it's going to drive up inflation like skyrocket, and all these Democrat buddies are going to get pocket all that money basically, and we'll be back. They'll be back trying to make another infrastructure bill in like 4 more years because this one didn't work out.
Well, nothing ever works out. Did cash for clunkers work out?
No.
Right.
I laughed at that. You know, my mechanical engineering degree from the University of Minnesota is oriented towards power and propulsion. As soon as they announced that thing, I just shook my head. So why are they giving away $2 million for $2 billion for nothing? It's as ridiculous as it gets. The way that you increase fuel economies in vehicles and incentivize the corporations to do so. How do you do that? Financially? Not give them money, but if they can attain certain goals, they can get certain credits. Okay, it's up to them. That kind of thing. It's the same with vehicles. You know, I love explaining this to people because most people don't understand. I had a 1973 Monte Carlo. I had a Chevy 350 in it with a Quadrajet 4-barrel. That thing was a great car. I had a blast in that thing. Got 8 miles to the gallon. Just what it got, right? No, you know, pretty much no matter how I drive, it could get worse. Okay, on occasion. But I got a 1996 Chevy pickup truck. Okay, 23 years newer. It's got the same Chevy 350, 260 horsepower engine in it. The difference is, even though the truck's, I don't know if it's even heavier, probably a little heavier than the Monte Carlo. But the big difference is it's got fuel injection and computer control. That truck gets 15 miles to the gallon, twice the mileage the Monte Carlo did. And I'm hauling cargo around with it, right? It's a truck. Okay. That didn't happen because the government regulated someone into doing it. That happened because technology improved. And the companies could see that people were looking for better, more fuel efficient vehicles. So it was up to them to provide it. They're in competition with Dodge and Ford on their trucks. Look, our truck gets such good mileage and has this power. And that's what the other companies want to do. So that's the issue. Now, this Chevy 350 that's getting 15 miles to the gallon, we did a calculation in my senior level mechanical engineering class. Internal combustion engines too. I took both. It's the only class I never skipped. I mean, that thing was great. Same with the lab. The lab was wonderful. So anyways, I'm sitting there and we're looking at this and we did the calculation, and it turns out that a Chevy 350 can get maximum of a little over 35 miles to the gallon given the average fuel value available. Okay, octane doesn't change that. It's the value of energy in the fuel. So if you can get only 35 miles to the gallon, how could government regulate something to be any more? You know what I mean? And so you back it off and you end up with losses, and that's how you get to the 15 miles to the gallon. And I've long been telling people, because of government regulations and the government pushing all these fleets, and you know, you've got companies like Ford and GM all making certain cars to make their fleet mileage look higher and all that. Okay, because of all these government regulations, we're all going to be driving different sized and shaped and colored eggs with different emblems on them at some point. Because the egg's the most fuel efficient hydrodynamic vehicle form we have. So we're all going to end up like that way. Just watch and see. It's getting
how many years do you think it's going to be till we're all driving egg-shaped cars?
Take a look at my 73 Monte Carlo to my 96 pickup to my 2007 pickup, and you can see that. And look at these modern SUVs now. They're all small. All the SUVs, sport utilities. I mean, years ago, they're the size of a Suzuki Samurai. You know, those things are sporty little things, and now that's considered an SUV. So they are all getting that way. Now, you can still see the Explorer and the Suburban are still fairly big vehicles, but you can look at them and see the egg shape coming along. You'll see it. Now that I've said this to you, you'll look around and you'll see it everywhere.
It's like taking the sunglasses off on that They Live movie.
Exactly. Oh, I love that movie. That thing's great. Yeah. That's why I'm wearing them. see nothing. I want to be blinded from all the subliminal stuff around me that's coming off the computer and the TV and everything.
So, what do you think about like climate change? And like you kind of touched on it with advancement in technology. That's kind of my opinion on it, is that the government isn't going to solve anything because they never do. So just throwing billions of dollars at this big problem isn't going to do much. And, you know, I think technology advancements is obviously, you know, going to be the answer. But not government. But what do you think about global warming?
Yeah, I'm going to get there in a second. First thing I want to say is the government only creates one thing. That's grief. All the government creates. The government doesn't create a damn thing. People create things. Okay? Government inhibits people from creating things. That's the problem, especially in this day and age. So I just wanted to say that first. Okay. So you're asking me about global warming and all of this. Now, I want to give you another quick story about when I was in college and my instructor in the mechanical engineering stuff, the internal combustion engines, he gave a speech to the Society of Automotive Engineers. And we all know what smog stations are, right? Where you bring your old car in to check and see if it's like polluting or whatever. They still have them in some parts of the country.
Yeah, I think California, you have to do it still.
Yeah,
you know.
And out on the East Coast, you do. Minnesota used to, we don't. Well, he proved that smog stations are a complete waste of money. You're better off, huge better off, investing your money in technology, improving the technology, especially in a state like Minnesota, where we put salt all over the roads and we have so many accidents that we have a high vehicle turnover rate. Why chase the people who can't afford it? The people who are just trying to get by and make their lives miserable over a little bit of crap. And here's my pontificating. When, you know what? We could get rid of the Blue Angels and account for all that pollution. Mm-hmm. Why do we have something like the Blue Angels? They have to practice all the time. Their jets just consume thousands of pounds of fuel. They have no pollution restrictions at all. But this poor person who's making minimum wage is getting harassed because the only thing they could afford doesn't quite meet up to standards. Okay. Yeah. So I kind of wanted to get onto that. But as far as global warming goes, you know, the globe is warming, and it has been ever since the last ice age. And that's how the world works. The world goes in cycles. And there's certain things people can do, but the world, the Earth has kind of like its own immune system. Just like people have an immune system, and when something comes in, you find a way to overcome it and get going, right? Well, the Earth does too. The Earth finds a way to overcome things like carbon dioxide by doing what? Mm-hmm. Growing more stuff, okay? Depositing more carbon, finding more places to put it. And so I think we really do a disservice to the Earth thinking that it has absolutely no control over itself. It's been a self-controlled system long before we were here. And years ago, where we both are right now, was a lot more temperate and humid and tropical. Okay, there were dinosaurs around here. But then years ago, what else? There was an ice age, right? So it comes and goes. Now, I remember when I was a kid in 1976, I think, reading the New York Times, maybe it was 78, talking about the next ice age coming. Well, how can I read that in the New York Times and within 20, 30 years, now the world's going to end because we're going to get too hot, okay? People aren't sitting back and looking at facts and what's really going on. I want to get back to one of my main comments I love is I really hate the fact that we don't focus on the toxic pollutants we're evenly spreading around the globe. That's the first thing we should be doing. Yes, carbon dioxide can get higher, and my daughter pointed out to me, she's absolutely right, that the carbon dioxide levels in the ocean has gone up, and that's acidified the ocean some. So that is a bad effect. But I'm a big believer that we need to be worried about methane. okay, which is much worse. Nitric oxides, a lot of other things we're spewing out that we need to control. We should not be burning natural gas off of oil places. We should be capturing, that's where we should be spending the money. We should be capturing the natural gas, liquefying it, and using that for fuel. Okay, there are things we can, back to the green pill, there are things we can do even where we are now to refocus onto things like methane, to me, that are much more important than other things. Now, when I was on Adam versus a Man recently, their article of the day was talking about dementia and how dementia has gone down decade by decade in this country. And I said, well, they missed the second half of that title because it should say dementia's gone down decade by decade. But unfortunately, the people afflicted with it tend to gravitate towards political leadership positions, right? You know, because it seems that's what's going on. Okay, but I pointed out to them because they asked why. I said, well, we quit putting lead in our gas a while ago. And then we were using MTBE, which isn't the best either. And now we're using ethanol, which is better. And, you know, we don't even need ethanol anymore, really, because of fuel injection and computer technology. We can burn. The ethanol was put in the fuel specifically to provide extra oxygen so you'd have complete combustion. That's the reason. That's why MTB was put in. The lead was put in to raise the octane level, because years ago, the compression ratios used to be a lot higher in engines because they didn't have our technology. We can get a lot more power out of low compression engines, which means we can use a lesser quality fuel these days. So it's not that big a deal. But the ethanol, like I said, replaced the other stuff that was spewing stuff everywhere, and to me was causing it. Not only that, you know, we've got clean coal plants now. We've got a lot of natural gas plants. We aren't putting so much sulfur in the air. When I was a kid, we had acid rain all over the place. That doesn't happen in the United States anymore. It happens in China. Okay. They don't tell you about it, but I can tell you it's happening just by looking at their pollution reports. Where the hell else is this crap going to go? Right? It's not just going to magically disappear over the ocean. No, it's going to end up dropping. And so I'm sure they've got acid rain in China now, something the U.S. conquered a few years ago. You know, and to me, if we really want to help the world with that kind of stuff, we've got a garbage burning plant right here in Minneapolis that's super high tech, takes just about any pollutant out of the garbage burning process. Why aren't we exporting that to third world countries where they need electricity and they have a garbage issue?
Yeah.
I mean, there's another green pill solution right there. Let's do the right. If we're going to be giving them these billions of dollars, let's just take a few million back and build these garbage incinerators that make electricity. What's that going to do for your people? You know.
Yeah, well, you kind of touched on it before, with the government making the solution. You know, taking a lot of these mandates, they harm the poor and stuff like that. And I've actually seen. The first few years when we bought this house, the first few years I kind of quit doing it. I got lazy, but first few years we lived here, I kind of ran. I would run. We'd burn wood during the winter, you know, and I've actually seen some places that are starting to put bans, you know, trying to ban essentially burning wood, but it's like, you know, that. Those sort of things really hurt the poorest among us, because a lot of the people that are burning wood, you know, can't afford a $300 heating bill during the winter or something like that, you know. And a lot of the mandates that you see, you know, these global accords, you know, I'm not against. I don't consider myself necessarily an environmentalist activist like you know, but I am definitely not against protecting or anything the environment. Really, but a lot of these big global summits that are trying to tackle climate change, you know, they're doing that, and they're really hindering like third world countries, you know. I mean, you know, we're trying to get rid of coal, but it's like, okay, but if 70% of the world is still burning coal and that's their only cheap solution, like, you can't just get rid of that. Like, that has a massive impact, you know, on people's daily lives.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. You know, let's start out with the burning wood thing. So what's the lifespan of your wood burning, or your hydronic furnace, or your, I mean, you just burn it in a fireplace or what?
I had a fireplace, and then I had an insert that would blow, with a blower on it.
So what's the lifespan of that?
I have no idea.
20 years, maybe?
Yeah, it looks like it's probably at least that old, I bet.
Okay, so let's say you got it at 20 years. What happens after 20 years if you want to keep burning wood? You have to buy a new insert. Yeah. And is that insert most likely going to be more efficient than the one from 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Then why would you regulate it? Do you see what I'm saying? It's the improvement in technology that's going to save us. It's 100% the improvement in technology. Don't harass people because they're trying to get by and they have what they have. Help incentivize improvements in technology and efficiency. The only reason our electric grid can handle the number of people in this country like they did when I was a kid is what? Is why? Why?
Is it fancier than their technology?
Improvement in efficiencies. I'm looking at a TV right here that's burning maybe 85 watts an hour. When I was a kid, 500 to 600 watts.
Oh, but the TVs were 10 times larger.
Yeah, well, but no, same size TV would be doing that because, I believe it or not, I grew up with black and white TV and I was happy to have it. And then a lot of the TVs had tubes. So they had to heat up and do this and that, and it took a lot of energy to use them. Nowadays, they're using 10 to 20% of the energy they did when I was a kid. What does that mean for the number of TVs around the country? You can have 80 to 90% more, and it's still going to be the same energy. So the only reason our energy grid is still standing and can withstand what's going on at all is because the improvement in technology over the years in everything from the TVs to air conditionings to washing machines to refrigerators and even computers. Everything, the improvement in the efficiency of all these is the only reason. If everything kept using the same amount of energy, our grid would have crashed a while ago.
Chris German says global warming is an excuse to tax.
100%. 100%.
Everything's an excuse to tax when it comes to government. A breathing tax, a clean air tax.
It's getting that way. I did a calculation a few years ago while my wife was working. She's retired now. And I looked at her income and I looked at how much we paid in taxes for sales tax, property tax, income tax, state income tax, everything else. And I came up with a figure somewhere around 65% of her income was being paid out in all these different taxes. And I've got plenty of lefty friends around here who said, the rich need to get taxed more. And trust me, we weren't the rich. We were living the American dream. We could afford our payments. Isn't that the American dream these days?
Yeah.
So I looked at them and I said, okay, here's the deal. My wife is working Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and partway into Thursday, most of Thursday for everybody else. Okay. She gets to keep the rest of Thursday and Friday. How do you want it? Should she have to work all the way through Friday or part of Friday to make you happy? What's it going to take until enough is enough? And that's a problem. That's a problem. When I grew up here in Minnesota, the biggest employers were 3M, Honeywell, Pillsbury, and General Mills. Biggest employers now are the state government, the federal government, and local governments. Does that tell anybody out there anything about what's wrong with our society?
Our biggest employer in South Dakota is healthcare.
There you go.
That's the same thing. It's because government is so involved in it, and man.
Oh yeah,
My wife was just talking about some hospital buying another hospital. Or it wasn't even another hospital. They were buying some company because we're medical coders. And so it was us. So they were buying this company, and they were buying it for like $7.8 billion in cash. And I'm like, imagine that this healthcare company
in South Dakota.
Well, no, that one wasn't in South Dakota. But it's like, imagine that healthcare company having $7.8 billion in cash that they're just sitting on. And yeah, I mean, a lot of it comes from the government or direct. Is that
It all comes from us.
It's not a free market system, anyways. So there's there's very little competition. I mean, I could go on for days.
No, and I'm offended by the healthcare system. For many reasons, including one, I'm not interested in getting on a healthcare plan where I pay for a bonus so a couple different people can get their Lexus every year. I'm just not interested in doing that. Plus, you know what? I'm sorry, but I just don't trust doctors. You know what? If I got a broken leg or I need stitches, I get it. I go in there and have them take care of that. But when it comes to them trying to figure out what's going on, I don't want to be a guinea pig. That's the last thing I want to be. And that's here, try this, try that. Tell me what happens. What do you mean, try this, try that? It's not what your mechanic says about your car. Let's just try the starter. Okay, let's try the alternator next, right?
Kind of like a chiropractor. They just want you to keep coming back.
Oh, forever. Hey, listen, I got a solution for chiropractors, and I don't mean to offend any chiropractors. It's called an inversion table. Okay, you get your own inversion table, and you'll be just that teeter. I don't care who it
I've
is.
seen it,
Yeah, I've had one for 25. I used to have back problems. In fact, I collapsed to the floor, and my wife had to carry me in bed when she's pregnant. They brought me down to the hospital because my legs were all over, shot me up and stuff. I bought an inversion table. The first time I flipped over, I fell to the ground in pain and crawled to bed. She's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, it feels really good." The next day it was half the pain, half the crawl, and it slowly, because my spine was separating. It was so used to being congested together. And when it finally flipped the other way for a bit, it got to separate and realign, and it made all the difference. And that's half the problem. So I'm a big fan of inversion tables. But anyways, back to this environmental thing. I am an environmentalist. I'm the green pill guy. I'm the guy who's going to tell you we've got to do the right thing for the environment, which has nothing to do with hysteria or lack of science. Because that's one thing I see missing these days is science in anything. It's a consensus. It's always a consensus. There is no consensus in science, okay? Science either happens or it doesn't happen. It doesn't matter who agrees to it. Science does not care about a judge. Science does not care about a politician. Science cares about what science is. There you go.
I like it. Do you have anything you want to plug before we sign out?
Absolutely. I want to plug my YouTube channel, The Turbine Guy. I'm hoping I go there and look and got a few subscribers. And I hope these guys, anybody on my channel who sees this, because I'm going to download you guys and post this on my channel. It was a great discussion. I had a good time. And so anybody who sees this, subscribe to these guys. They're great guys. They're trying to build freedom in South Dakota kind of thing. And I'm hoping we're making friends that way. So anyways, Turbine Guys, subscribe to me and my website, gogreenenergyonline.com, gogreenenergyonline.com. You can find me there. Go to the contact page. And then if you want to do a system yourself, wind solar batteries, I can custom design, sell you one. But you know what I do get? I get people all the time calling me with questions. Geez, I've got this because I've got do-it-yourself videos put up on my channel so you can see how to install this stuff. And I've done this and this. Is this okay or that? And you know what? I answer the phone every time, and I help everybody out. So there I am, folks. Turbine Guy, ready to help you.
Hey, real quick before you go, I actually was going to sneak this in. But because we met you at Freedom Fest, that's how we kind of heard about you. And we didn't have any guests last week. I was trying to get guests on to ask them about their experience at Freedom Fest.
Sure.
So was that your first time at Freedom Fest?
It absolutely was. Next year, I actually asked them if they wanted me to be a speaker, and they were full, and they said maybe next year. And I think because of the videos I put out, because I spent a lot of time recording some different sessions, and I went and did one-on-one interviews. I don't think anyone else was doing that there. So because I did that, I kind of made a little mark with these people. So I'm hoping maybe I can be a speaker next year out there. It'd be fun out in Vegas to go out and do that. Yes. But I had a great time. I met a lot of great people. And it was so nice to be surrounded by people who just weren't wound up about everything. Yeah. Didn't take everything seriously. Could take a step back and not only laugh at what's going on, but laugh at themselves too. And I think that's what's missing in today's society is people don't laugh at themselves anymore. I don't think that happens enough.
Well, they made comedy hard with cancel culture.
Yeah, they did. Absolutely.
Was there any particular favorite part or favorite speaker? Anyone you met that you thought was like
Sheriff Bob from Washington. Well, other than you two guys, of course. Right. Other than you two guys.
Anybody have a great booth set up there?
Well, the constitutional sheriff.
Yeah.
You guys had a cool booth because of your exhibits, and I still don't understand why I didn't win the knife. I thought the fix was in, but whatever. So anyways, Sheriff Bob was great from the Constitutional Sheriffs. He's from Washington. I did an interview with him. He's just wonderful. I sat in on with Sheriff Mack and others on whether or not the justice system is broken. I filmed that. That was great. Sheriff Mack is wonderful.
You filmed that one?
Yes, I did.
So
That's on my channel.
All right.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then Angela McCardle, I did an interview with her. That was great. We talked about the Mises party and her running for chair, and then I gave her my support. Absolutely. I mean, I love Angela. She's great. She's great for the party. She's full of energy, and she's about succeeding, which is what we need.
Yeah.
And then Larry Sharp.
Yeah.
Love Larry Sharp. He did an interview with me. I mean, it turned his eye because I went and talked to him, showed him the media pass, and said, "Yeah, I ran for Senate in Minnesota." And he said, "Well, how well did you do?" And I said, "Well, I got 7% of the vote." He stopped and looked at me, and then I think I was his buddy because I ran as a libertarian and got 7%. Gary Johnson got 3.5%.
He's used to those New York percentages. I'm telling you, if South Dakota had a Larry Sharp, like just that charisma guy that's willing to go out there, bust his ass.
Well, all he's got to do is say he's a Democrat and say he lives there, and then he's all set, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's how it goes these days. But no, I love Larry Sharp. He was great. I had fun at the Mises Caucus booth, and I had fun at your booth. It was just a fun. Oh, Spike Owen too. My wife had met Spike at a dinner, and I hadn't. And Spike was a great guy. I did an interview with him. I mean, just overall, it was really neat. Just the open-minded, and I hate to say freedom because it shouldn't be the word freedom. It should just be open-minded conversations going on that we aren't allowed in this country anymore. So I really enjoyed Freedom Fest from that aspect.
Yeah, it was our first time. I liked it too. I wish my regret is I wish we had done more things like you had done, where we had went around and interviewed more people. And I don't know, I was preoccupied with our booth and stuff. But it was a great event. I'm really glad they came to South Dakota. I know that.
Oh, I am too, and I'm sad they're not coming back next year. I really am. The money must be good in Vegas.
Fingers crossed that Vegas locks down next summer.
Yeah, you know what? Who the hell knows these days, huh? I mean, honest to God, I walked into a grocery store the other night with my son, and there were 4 signs, and the left sign said that the CDC says if you've had your vaccination, you can come in here without a mask. And the right sign said, CDC says whether or not you have your vaccination, you need to wear a mask. I'm like, you've got 2 signs that conflict on the same damn door. What the hell is going on in this country?
It reminds me of the terror threat level in the early 2000s. Yeah. It's like, it's orange level today. Orange level COVID. It's like, when are we going to return to green?
Not going to. No reason to.
Yeah.
We're going to lose our power then. No, that'll never happen.
Well, it was great talking to you. I learned a lot tonight. You're a very interesting person. We'll have to have you on again sometime.
Well, I definitely appreciate that, and I'd love to be on again, and it's great to make ties with our neighbors from the communist state of Minnesota. It's nice to be talking to some free people. That's all I got to say.
So, thanks for coming on, Mr. Nygaard.
Thank you, sir.
See ya. All right. So, we got anything coming up with the party?
Freedom Feast, September 11th.
September 11th.
Yep. Yep.
Get your campsites. Hit Greg and I up if you want a campsite by us. We got like 2 extra campsites. But yeah, Greg's gonna cook a lot of food.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna be a lot of fun. It's gonna be our 3rd annual Freedom Feast, so we're extra seasoned and extra practiced at this now. So we're hoping 100 people show up. 100 people.
Yeah, I don't know. We've averaged probably 30 people at least. This one could be pretty big, though. I mean, shoot, just with my family alone, there's like 10 of us.
Nice.
But yeah, it'll be fun.
Shout out to our sponsors, pinkcoin.com, Camp Bridger Seasonings. You can check them out at campbridger.net. And the Dakota Rustler Show. That's hosted by Daryl Root, the Libertarian Party of South Dakota treasurer. Good stuff there. I don't know. Do we have anything? How was the Walk for Freedom in Mitchell?
Oh, nobody wanted to walk. It was disappointing.
Oh, okay.
There was only a couple of us. And then Tara ended up getting a hold of us, so we had a couple beers on her porch or her deck.
Nice.
At her place. That was all right. Went and ate some food, so my fat boy got fed, but I don't know, it wasn't bad. I told him next time try something funner.
Yeah, just do frisbee golf. It's like walking, but then you're like trying to do some sport activity.
Yeah, that park we were at actually had frisbee golf, and it was really weird. Like the concrete pad wasn't like very far, like 30 foot from the hole, I guess. For yeah. I don't know. It was really weird, I thought, but whatever.
Next week we've got a Mr. Curtis Temple. He's a rancher out at Pine Ridge. Apparently, the federal government is stealing his cattle. A situation similar to the Bundy Ranch. I think we're gonna have a Mr. Roger Roots. He's an attorney and activist from Montana. They'll both be on to discuss the case. That's happening right here in South Dakota, folks. So, yeah, dude. I mean, we got to get exposure to this story. We're going to be probably following up with a nice blog article on that, try to get the word out. But, yeah, basically all that saved Bundy Ranch from the same situation was awareness, people knowing about it happening and doing something to stop it. So we'll have them on. It has
something to do with the grazing rights and stuff like that. It was a pretty complex situation, so it's a good podcast episode to learn all about it.
Oh yeah. Fish Baldwin says, "See ya at Freedom Feast." Nice.
Yeah, he'll be having his cooking duties.
Somebody bring a vegetarian dish. If anybody out there is an expert in vegetarian cooking,
yeah, there you go.
We'd appreciate it if you could bring something.
I think we had corn last time. That was about it.
Maybe there'll be a free T-shirt in for you if you do. But that's the show. I don't got anything else.
No, not really.
We'll be back next Sunday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Let me get my outro video here, but let's see, where is it at? I always have this awkward moment between signing out and finding my outro video. All right, here we go. All right, see you next Sunday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time with Curtis Temple and Roger Roots.
See ya.
See ya.